Happy Frieren Fridays, guys. Welcome back to yet another episode of Frieren, episode 5. I almost said episode 2. It's technically episode 5, but really happy that this show continues to be excellent. I just absolutely love this episode. Kind of forms around two different subjects here. Really one about the passing, really giving some sort of purpose for Fern, kind of going along with Frieren, but additionally, yes, introducing Stark. Which, yes, I've seen in all the PVs. I was really curious around who he was going to be. I had like this inkling and idea that there was a possibility that he was going to be Aizen's son. Maybe like a half dwarf or something like that. But no, it just seems like he's an apprentice. But it does have a lot of connection with him and Aizen, which I thought was really excellent as well. But yes, let's jump into this. The first segment obviously being, unfortunately, a recap. I was like, are we really going to do recaps in this show? I was really upset seeing this opening where it was kind of replaying everything with the passing, with the parting of Aizen, and then sure enough, it adds something else to it, which is this concept of the 1/100th of a life, which I almost kind of wish this was at the end of episode 4, because I think this is a really telling thing about Frieren herself. Despite the fact that it is a mere 10 years, despite the fact that it is 1/100th of her life, there is an element here that, yes, this is technically a very important segment of her life. There's been a lot of discussion over the last week about Frieren, the series as a whole, and people just not really understanding who Frieren is as a character. And as I mentioned in my video, kind of analyzing every single episode, something that I thought was pretty obvious is this idea that Frieren, being that she lives for so long, doesn't really see things the same way that people, especially humans, see things. It's such a fraction of her life. This is literally just a day in her life where we don't see significance in a single day ourselves. That's the same for her. She doesn't see significance in it, and thus she doesn't pay too much mind to people around her. Now she's finally discovering, yeah, that mere 10 years was significant to me. Aizen points it out. Yes, and you changed because of that 10 years. And she agrees. Yes, this is something that has changed me a lot. But it's kind of interesting because we're getting a parallel here with Fern. And the idea that she's going, well, I've spent half of my life with you, which is kind of telling to the life expectancy of this world. I mean, this girl's literally, 17, 18? She's not that old. And so if this is half of her life, then the expectancy in this world, I'm guessing, is probably going to be in the 40s and 50s, which I guess kind of lines up with Hater and Himmel. But no, technically, because they were like 70 or something when they died. So they lived a long life, but I guess there's an expectancy here. I was almost kind of thinking when they cut over to Hater, they were going to explain this idea that Fern, because of something that happened in her life, because of something that she'd gone through, because she's some sort of race, not particularly 100% human, maybe she doesn't live that long, but still, it is technically half, I guess, in the expectancy of this world. Maybe in the world, typically people only last for 40 years, 50 years at most, and maybe just Hater and Himmel lasted a long time. But no, the scene with Hater was to really emphasize on how important he was to Fern before we obviously have a Phantom show up. Which, yes, seeing that whole scene with Hater, I assume that the Phantom was going to pop up as Hater. Like, that was an expectancy. There's 2 points in this episode that are technically predictable, but the way they're presented kind of makes it work. Yes, having this brief moment where Hater's telling Fern, make sure to listen to Frieren, and if you're a bad girl, I'm going to show up in the afterlife. And she's like, oh, I guess I'll have to be a bad girl then. He's like, oh, you're clever. I forgot about that. Okay, if you're a good girl, I'll show up. But I like this because they have this whole Phantom thing, and obviously Frieren figures it out very quickly. If they're showing up like they did when they were alive, then it's obviously Phantoms. It's not going to be the undead. But I like the fact that Frieren's going to avoid it, and Fern's like, no, the village needs help. Unlike you, I'm a good girl. I want to help them. But no, I love this scene because, yes, the Phantom obviously takes the appearance of Hater in order to mess with Fern. Fern being taken in by Hater when she was very young, obviously he's going to be the only person that's kind of impressed upon her. The only person she's going to have memories of that would affect her. But I like the fact that it's not just an image of somebody. See, it's very easy for Fern, especially, she's already admitting the idea that, well, it's a Phantom. I know I'm going to shoot it because I know it's fake. But it's when it kind of attaches to actual memories that Fern has, that's where it makes it more difficult. An image of something is much different than a memory of something. Like, you can see a picture and it's got emotions in it, but why it has emotions in it is because you're dredging up memories. A picture is just a mere frame, whereas a memory is a span of time. So yes, this Phantom literally saying, oh, I showed up because you were a good girl, that's what affects her. That's what makes her pause. That's what makes her unable to shoot Hater. But no, I love the other side of this whole thing, because I thought that was going to be it. I was like, okay, this is going to just be this thing that's going to play off of Fern, her relationship with Hater. No. Himmel shows up in front of Frieren. And I got a huge kick out of that because she mentioned the fact that she had shot her master as a phantom before. And she said something effective. It said something about that it didn't want to die or something like that. And she was used to her begging for her life when she was alive, too. Which really makes me wonder, what is that memory? What in the world brought that on? They got cut off, so we never got to hear why she always was begging for her life. But that could be an aspect that Frieren, when she was with her master and her master was facing mortality, she'd understand why she was begging so much to actually live on. But we'll see. But that is kind of that bigger story, and the idea that her master essentially went over to this land, seen the past individuals that she fought with. So maybe that's an aspect of just how connected she was with people and the living. Something that, again, Frieren doesn't understand. But no, I like the fact that Himmel's in front of Frieren, and he literally just sits there and smiles, and she's like, wow, so it's Himmel this time. I wasn't expecting that. I guess I have changed. Yes, the Phantom sees that Frieren is more connected to Himmel than her own master. Which makes sense. How often does Frieren right now think of her master? She's always thinking of Himmel. So it makes sense the Phantom would pick up on Himmel. But what the Phantom doesn't realize is that Himmel's a good person. And so, yes, playing into the memories of Frieren of Himmel is going to be literally, shoot me. Like, he's going to say, I need to be a sacrifice because I'm dangerous. Himmel, the hero, this good guy, is obviously going to put her before himself. Even as a Phantom, which is, again, that's one of those aspects of like, yeah, even in a scenario with a Phantom, we're going to point out how good of a person Himmel is. So she's like, yeah, he would say that. Blast. I loved it. I thought it was a really fantastical scene. And it still has that emotion in there because that long shot of Himmel just standing there. And she does pause. It takes Frieren a while to shoot him. Whereas I think if it was her master, I don't think she would pause too much. But no, Fern shooting Heiter, I don't know why, but the animation stuck out so much to me because it had like that brief shot where she's like, she sees the Phantom now, and then she goes to shoot, Heiter smiles, and then you have like this brief shot of really close up to Fern's face, and you see her like brows just twitch slightly. I was like, I don't know why, but it just had like a very subtle expression in there that I really, really liked, even though it was painful. But no, a really nice little wrap up in the idea of let's go see the real one, which is really, really actually significant because, yes, when this episode opens up, it points out that fact that, yes, Fern has lived half her life with Frieren, and now she's going to spend even more time. Even Frieren's like, yeah, you're going to spend more time with me. Because it kind of implies this idea that, yes, that's going to be a huge chunk of Fern's life. What is she gaining from this besides just traveling around with her master? Like, what purpose is she gaining from this? Yes, there's the idea that she does love magic as much as Frieren does. She just doesn't want to admit it. And even the idea that Heiter kind of points out that, yes, you turn out to be a good mage. It was a good thing. What benefit does Frieren have in going on this journey? Yes, in the end, there is going to be a benefit because she's going to be able to see Heiter again. Which I don't know why she wanted to see him again. It seems like she had plenty of closure with him. But maybe it's just why not? But yes, that's when we get to the dragon. I love that. Fern blasts at it. That didn't do anything. Oh, wow, they're really tough. Let's run. They start running away. Fern runs back there and collapses. All right, let's go back and shoot it again. It might take a couple times. Oh, that's right. Mages don't play tag. That was just absolutely hilarious. Besides, like, the whole scene later on with Stark, I think that was just absolutely hilarious. It had me busting up. Just Fern's like, no, we're not doing this. Stop. But no, it is kind of convenient, the idea that when they're here, they need a frontliner, and just so happens, Eisen told Frieren to come here and hire his apprentice, Stark. And apparently he's a hero of the town because he faced off against the dragon. The dragon hasn't fought since then. Which I knew when they said that. I'm like, either there's going to be some weird magical connection between Stark and the dragon, or he's a fake hero. And yeah, sure enough, he ends up being a fake hero. But it does technically make sense. It's the joke of this idea that everybody believes that he stared down the dragon fled from him, and the dragon is afraid of Stark. So he's the hero of the town. We haven't been attacked by this dragon because Stark is here. But no, it is simply because he stood there and the dragon left. He was afraid the entire time. He wasn't going to do anything. But it makes sense to Stark's character. He's not a complete coward. He's not weak. It's simply, as we see through Eisen's side, is that yes, technically both he and Stark had the same history. Both of them fled from their hometowns, let everybody died, and they fled. So it makes sense that Stark, and I think this is going to be a key part of his character, yes, he's not strong. Yes, he's not OP. Yes, he's not super brave. But he is brave because he won't flee again. He stood there in front of that dragon because he didn't want to flee again. That's what makes him strong. Doesn't make him a coward in the end. And I'm assuming that's what we're going to get into with the next episode. He just doesn't want to be a coward again. Despite the fact that, yes, it was terrifying, and yes, he probably pissed himself, he didn't want to flee. And that's a cool aspect that's kind of added into it. Even though, yes, the shot of him standing in front of the dragon's cutting up buildings like vegetables. It's like this dragon sitting here flexing in front of him, and he's like, I'll let you live. It's more comical to the dragon to just let him live. On a whim, I'm going to show him how powerful I am, and I'm not going to kill him. I'm going to leave. It's a super, I like the troll dragon. It's like an absolute troll dragon. I loved it. Again, it's sort of predictable, but at the same time, the way they presented it was just amazing, so I love it. But no, Frieren goes to recruit Stark. It seems like Frieren already kind of acknowledged this idea that this big ravine, this cut through the mountainside was done by Stark. That's why later on she tells Frieren, if you're curious, go check. She already knew. She knows that Stark is powerful. It's just, yes, he doesn't seem to have much confidence. But it's a nice concept in the idea that Stark doesn't really feel like he's that great, but yet he's still around. The people love him, and it does seem like he is kind of a little upset in the idea that he can't do anything about it and he can't leave. If he were to walk out of the village right now, everybody would probably be panicking because they think that he's been holding off the dragon. So there is a benefit to him to taking out the dragon. It does imply the idea that he has fought other dragons before. He mentioned the idea that he's got a scar and it's from this shadow dragon. I'm not sure if that's a lie. Frieren says something to the effect that it's not that big of a deal, like that's not that great of a scar. But it seems to at least imply that he knows about dragons. Maybe his original village was attacked by a shadow dragon. Maybe that's why he got the scar. But yes, he is the type that seems like he spins up stories, so it's like how much of what he's saying is actually true. I like the fact that Frieren doesn't seem to care anymore that people find her collecting magic to be dumb. Like she's talking about, what's in that grimoire? Oh, it allows you to see through clothes. Why do you grab all these dumb, weird, odd spells? Well, there's a practical use for it. You could see invisible weapons, and I know everybody that's watching the show is going, yeah, I use that for a different reason. She thinks practical, but no, Stark's like, that's a dumb reason. She's like, yeah, right. But no, through and through, excellent episode. Can't wait to see the dragon fight. I think it's going to be pretty freaking amazing. As I mentioned last week, I do kind of admit the idea that I don't really feel like this show is an action show, but whenever it does have action, it's amazing. So I'm sure this next fight's going to be pretty hype. So until then, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below, comment, let me know what you thought of the episode. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button to get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, I have a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, membership button down below. Greatly appreciate everybody it does, and y'all take care.